Hey everyone, how are you guys doing? We are going to be learning how to read a STAR diagnostic report. This is one of the reports you may get from your STAR assessment, which you're doing in either reading or math. And I just want to help make sure you're interpreting some of what these scores are indicating and in a useful way for you. So here we've got a math one, and I pulled one up from a student. I blanked out their name so they're anonymous. But you can see they got some information on here. They started the test. They did it September 26th. They're a 10th grader. They're at Summit Learning Charter. And we got some scores. So let's talk about what we are seeing here. So first of all, they kind of categorize students on at or above benchmark. That's kind of the green band. That's the goal. You want to be at the benchmark you should be. As a 10th grader, you want to know all the 10th grade things that you should be at. But then what's helpful for us as teachers is it kind of rates who's on watch. So again, that's in the, I believe in the 30th to 40th percentile. There's intervention students. These are students who may be doing okay. They're close, but there's pretty significant gaps or things that they're missing that 10th graders should know. And then there's urgent intervention. These students are scoring really low. They're not getting most of the 10th grade things that they should. And it helps us know as teachers and as staff who to give extra support to, who maybe needs curriculum adjusted. It informs us on a lot of different areas. So for this particular student, we can see that they scored right in the green band right here. So they're at or above benchmark, which is pretty good. I'm happy with where they're at. We definitely want to encourage them to keep growing, but they're at where they need to be right at the beginning of the school year. Let's look down a little bit more. So we got some enterprise test scores, right? This SS just means scaled score. That's their test score overall. They got an 838, which doesn't really mean much, but that's the Renaissance Star system that they use to score, which then breaks down on all the other things. This gross score right here won't populate until this student takes a second test in winter. And then they'll actually have two different tests to compare with, and we'll get a score in terms of how they're doing over the first half of the year. So I'm very excited to see people's gross scores from fall to winter. We'll break that down at the end of January is when we do winter testing. But for right now, unless you've tested with us last year, which most of you haven't, you won't have a growth score. But this one's interesting, the percentile rank. This one gives you a ranking for all the other, in this case, this is a 10th grader who took this test. So for all the other 10th graders nationally who took this Renaissance Star math test, this student scored in the 61 percentile, which means they scored higher than 61% of the students nationally. Which means they're a little bit above average. So if I was working with this student, I would know that they're a pretty solid math student. They can handle, they should be right ready for 10th grade level stuff. And I kind of know how much I can push them and how much to expect out of them in terms of growth. So the percentile ranking is the most useful one that students and families like. And it just gives you an idea of where are you compared to all the other students in your grade level. The last one right here is grade equivalent. This one just kind of shows you, based again on your score, where do you fit the average in terms of grade level. So an average would begin right at the 50th percentile, right? So he's a little bit ahead for a 10th grader, which means he's right average for an 11th grader in the 4th month of 11th grade. So again, high school, it's kind of lumped. You're kind of all together, so it doesn't mean as much so much in high school. But this is really handy if we have a 3rd grader and they come in and they show that they're grade equivalent to an 8th grader. It might mean we need to adjust some things, or we got some things going on here in terms of what they're doing mathematically that we need to, they're not ready. The 3rd grade class would not be appropriate for them. Okay, so there's some overall scores. And then if we look further down, it breaks it down into domain scores. So here's where we're taking, this is a math test. It's now breaking down 10th grade benchmarks. In this case, it's a lot of geometry and some statistics. And it's giving a score from 0 to 100 around each of these domains. Now, he scored above average on his test, 61 percentile, but these domain scores are from 0 to 100, and they're on the lower side, right? 29th, 32%, 36%. His best score was modeling with geometry, which is a 44%. So he's relatively strong in that subject area. But he's, in terms of 0 to 100, these would be really low scores. And as a teacher, what it just informs me is, oh, if he's a 10th grader, he's probably taking geometry right now and has not learned these things. And so I've got a good benchmark of knowing, like, okay, there's some things he's familiar with, but he probably needs to learn geometry. Geometry would be the right class for him. And I'd be excited again to see come winter term, when he's had a chance to learn about congruence, similarities, circles, a lot of these formulas, patterns, relationships, I would expect these to all come up quite considerably, be in the 60th percentile, 70th percentile, etc. Same thing with the statistics, conditional probability, and the rules of probability. So this just kind of indicates these are kind of the things that the student should be working on. Finally, at the bottom, you can see that the student took 16 minutes and 38 seconds. This is a quick test to administer. It's not a 2-hour grind session. So most of the students should be done in 20 or 30 minutes. Again, taking your time, working out things, it's all great, but there's not a lot of questions to go through. And so we can get a good snapshot in the fall, we can get a good snapshot in the winter, combined with your other classes and assessments that you're doing. It just really gives us a nice uniform measure of how students are doing. Okay, hopefully this is really helpful for you guys as you get your own diagnostic report. And again, there's some other different reports that we do to measure kind of growth longitudinally. So the report you might get might not look exactly like this, but there'll be similar enough things where I think you should translate just fine. If you have any questions, let me know, and have fun viewing your own reports.